Hi, it's Kirby Summers, and I welcome you to the Epstein Project podcast. As many of you know, yesterday I sent out the pre orders for Ghislaine Maxwell, An Unauthorized Biography, which is my latest book. It covers the first 31 years of Ghislaine Maxwell's life, and it gives us a glimpse. I know that when I was writing it, it kind of felt like I was watching a movie. I kind of started it before her birth, kind of to look at who her parents were, go into their character. And, I was like, oh, I see. And, you will too. Um, we know that Robert Maxwell died under what's still considered mysterious circumstances at sea. Some say he jumped and committed suicide. Others say he was killed. I am of the opinion that he was killed. He had been discovered to have been a fraud and a thief um, as early as 1969 when he tried to scam Leaseco um, by selling them a company where he had pretty much inflated the numbers. In any event, Robert Maxwell, throughout his life, as Ghislaine Maxwell did later, kind of had a PR machine. Not only did he have a newspaper or various newspapers where he could put out whatever news he wanted to the public to see, but he also had a steady stream of attorneys who would stop people like Tom Bauer, for example, who wrote two biographies on Robert Maxwell, and where he knew he was a thief. He sued him, and he died before these were settled, but he sued him 11 times for articles that Bauer would write that revealed the underhanded and illegal things that Maxwell was doing. What kind of stayed on my mind as I wrote this book were some interesting and very um, kind of like really words that stayed with me about what Tom Bauer said. He said about these very wealthy people, they don't get to where they are and they don't stay where they are by being good people. They get there because they're liars and they're thieves. And in order to get the truth, you have to find the victims. And in Ghislaine Maxwell's case, we have heard from the victims and we have heard their stories firsthand now. So, as opposed to 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, when Jeffrey Epstein was able to still control the media, still control what people thought, and where we know he had help from a very high level to make sure that he did not pay for his crimes and that his victims were not taken seriously. Uh, this is not happening now. We still have a cover up, which is clear to many of us who are following this case. But at least Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. It is said that he committed suicide. I believe that he too was murdered. And Jean-Luc Brunel was arrested as well. So what I want to do today is I want to read to you. Well, there are two things I want to read to you. There's a comment that one of Ghislaine Maxwell's friends gave after Epstein came out of jail. And, these things are telling. They're telling about the people who surrounded her, who I will call enablers. And they're telling about how she must have thought about herself. She was above the law like her father before her. They really believed they were above the law. They were better than the rest of us. So after Epstein was released from jail, one of her friends gave an interview. So it says and I have this in my book, and I'm reading from my book. In a 2011 profile about how Ghislaine Maxwell was welcomed back into society after Jeffrey Epstein was jailed, one unnamed insider said, "She's a high-end fixer, and so what? No one in cafe society gives a damn that 15-year-old girls give massages. She gets people into parties and runs around for a lot of people." So I just want to remind everyone that the word massages, as we've learned from the depositions, was code word for sex. It was not literally meant as massages. That's code word for sex. So this guy is saying nobody in cafe society gives a damn that a 15-year-old girl has sex with either Jeffrey Epstein or with Ghislaine Maxwell, allegedly. I'm going to read the prologue of my book. It is called The Suicide of Genius. Genius was the Maxwell family's butler at Headington Hill Hall just before Robert Maxwell disappeared at sea. He was given this name, which the Maxwells and their friends used when speaking to him, because Maxwell thought him to be proverbially thick. By way of example, when asked why he referred to his butler as Genius, Bob would tell the tale that he'd asked him to serve rosé wine, and Genius poured into the flute-like stemmed Venetian glasses red and white wine together, making it look as if it were rosé. "No, no, 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 no," Robert Maxwell recalled yelling at him. "Not like that. Find a bottle of rosé wine, which someone delivered to the house in a crate, and start again." The Maxwells went through their help often, whether it was at their stately 53-room mansion on the hill or at Robert Maxwell's various places of business. Genius had not been working too long at Headington Hill Hall when he stepped out of the house one day and greeted Robert Maxwell, who was wearing his favorite pale blue suit with a crisp white shirt and his signature red bow tie. In the butler's hand was a recently sharpened meat cleaver. He carefully rolled up the sleeve of his white shirt and slashed his wrist in front of his boss. Blood splattered everywhere, much of it landing on Maxwell's blue suit. Maxwell was silent for a few seconds, and before the man's body fell to the ground, he said, "Genius, what you did shows you to be a very brave, but also very stupid." When the authorities arrived to pick up the corpse, they were told Genius was very likely suicidal because he probably realized he was in the wrong job. Well, doesn't that tell us a lot about how Robert Maxwell viewed his help? It also tells us how Ghislaine Maxwell viewed everyone else, anyone who worked for her. Um, I just want to give you this as an introduction to the book. The book is full of a lot of information that I think Ghislaine Maxwell and her family and the people who have enabled them thought they had completely scrubbed from the internet. Um, when I began working on this story a couple of years ago, there was information that was available, and thank goodness at the time I took copies of everything. When I went back as I wrote Ghislaine Maxwell, an unauthorized biography, this information had been scrubbed. Well, it seemed like a race when I was writing the book, which to me really did feel like I was watching a movie unfold before my eyes. I'm really happy that it's written. It covers again the first 30, 31 years of her life, from the time she is born until the time that she meets Jeffrey Epstein. I make sure to go back and correct the misstatements that have been put out where other people and perhaps another country is trying to reframe how Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein got together, because that's not how it happened. You will read in my book, and I think for the first time, how they met, under what circumstance, and when they began their collaboration. So I want to thank all of you who pre-ordered the book. The book is now available on my website, kirbysummers.com. This book will also be in bookstores in a couple of months. It will also be available on Audible. I'm going to have something on my website if you want to go ahead and pre-order an actual physical book. But if you want to get into the book and you want to start reading about all this information that has been kept from the public by really devious methods, then, read it now. You can order it now and get it later today. I want to thank again everybody. Your encouragement and your support kept me going. Um, this book, I'm happy that it's finished, but I already miss the daily going back and reading it and writing more and filling in the blanks. I mean, there's a lot of detail. There are layers to this that surprised even me. I thought I knew everything, and no, I learned more as I wrote it. So I really hope that you come away from reading this book the way that I came away after writing it, and that's just with a lot more knowledge about not just Ghislaine, but about her family and about her parents and how she became who she became. So again, it's Kirby Summers for the Epstein Project. Thanks for tuning in and have a good day. Bye.